Hoosier Sophisticate Radio.
Let's talk a little bit about what we got going on. Coming up here in just a couple minutes, we're going to have a Q&A with Daryl Bertrand. Many of you gave us some questions already. He's going to answer questions about what it means to be a patient, what it means to be a potential business owner. In the 7 o'clock hour, Seth and I the other day had the opportunity to pre-record an interview with Kelly Kennedy, Desert Storm veteran, journalist, author of They Fought for Each Other, the story of the hardest hit unit in Iraq, and co-author of the newly released Fight Like a Girl. She was super captivating. She saw some stuff, and
no problem just bleh,
no, absolutely not. And I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a journalist in the thick of it. That was the craziest part for me. And then at 7:30, we're going to have our friend Army sniper turned musician Andrew Wiscombe, Seth's buddy, join us then. On the phones, we have our buddy from the Missouri Cannabis Consultants, Daryl Bertrand, on line one. Daryl, what's happening, my man?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Man, it's always good when you're around.
Man, it's good to hear your sultry voice again.
Oh, guys, what an amazing week this has been.
It has been a week for the ages. And Daryl, we have people reaching out from all walks, strangers to Steve and I, really, that I guess have been listening all along. We had no idea. We figured there was only about 5 or 6 people that listen to this thing on a regular basis. And they're asking, questions about what it means for them to be a potential patient in Missouri, what it means to possibly try and get into the business. And we couldn't think of anybody better to maybe clear up some of those questions for us. And we appreciate you joining us on the show, and hope you're willing to play along a little bit.
Oh, definitely. I appreciate it, guys, and I'm ready to roll. Let's get this going.
Right
there's
on.
There's a lot here to even attempt to cover in a short amount of time.
I know. So we're gonna come rapid fire at you. I'm just gonna go down the line in no particular order. Can you explain the home grow caregiver option? Are we allowed to procure our own seeds, or do we have to buy seedlings from a dispensary?
You do not have to buy anything from a dispensary. Basically, what is going to occur typically is immaculate conception will occur.
Oh, okay, very well. So they're going to just kind of start popping up all over the place.
Yeah, there'll be a blind eye that'll go that for a certain amount of a period of time that we don't know what it'll be yet, but there will be a time when that does end. But there will be a blind eye period. There always is in every state, and has to be in order to establish one.
Very good.
Establish a program.
All right. Hey, are we allowed to make our own tinctures, oils, distillates, etc.?
Yes, as long as it is not a combustible form. The solventless is fine. Water, hash, all that stuff is good to go.
For the home grow option, can the plants just be in a room that has a lockable door on it, or will it have to be more secure than that?
Just in a locked room.
Okay.
Just so we can just throw a lock, like a bedroom door lock on it, or does it have to be anything special?
Yeah.
You don't need a camera or nothing?
Basically, so a 4 or 5-year-old can't just turn the knob and walk in.
Makes sense to me.
All right. After getting a medical card, do we lose the right to buy guns and conceal and carry?
That's a very, very good question, guys. I'm going to start this first off by saying I am not a lawyer, but under Missouri law, I don't believe there's going to be any issues under our state law. If you are following current state laws, due to Missouri has some of the strongest gun rights laws embedded within its constitution. The federal gun issue is pretty complicated. I don't think you're going to be able to buy a gun from any ATF licensed dealer to the question on the ATF form, and I highly suggest that nobody lies to our government.
Now,
especially on a piece of paper.
This comes from a guy that actually really got Steve and I very much involved in the cannabis industry, and talking about this more and more on the radio. He has a daughter that's quite sick, and already actually has qualified as a medical patient for a while. What if a caretaker has a Class B felony? Are they still going to be allowed? How do felonies play in? Like, are you going to be allowed to be a patient? Is there a statute of limitations as far as how long ago that maybe took place? Can you expound on that?
Restrictions on someone being a patient, but I highly doubt that it's somebody on probation or parole that I don't know if their person will allow them to have a med card while they're on probation or parole. It's unlikely, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But if someone is just a felon, period, I'm a felon. I'm going to be able to grow. I can own in the industry if I so choose and have the funding.
Very
so
good.
Basically, there's a lot more to this. The felony conviction for medical cannabis use or helping a medical cannabis user has 0 wait time.
Okay.
So anyone with a felony conviction for a nonviolent crime that did not result in prison will need to be crime-free for 5 years from the date of the conviction.
Okay.
Furthermore, anyone with a felony conviction for a violent crime or a crime that resulted in prison time will have to wait 5 years from the day they were released from the Department of Corrections to be able to enter the program.
Okay. Now,
for the industry.
If you were the caregiver for a child that needed this medicine, and let's say that that child that now is in a split home, the parents are separated, they both need to be able to give care. What are the limitations for each one? Can they both be caregivers, and are they each allowed to grow the same amount of plants per se?
Basically, what's going to happen is both parents can be caregivers, but only one of them can be assigned the child.
Okay. Okay.
But there's something else that can change some of this. There's a bomb I'll drop here later that could change their plant counts.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Nice tease.
Yeah, a little teaser.
You little tease, Daryl. All right.
After the break.
All right, Daryl. Will medical patients of marijuana in Missouri have any protections against landlords and housing establishments that will attempt to prevent their use on grounds or consumption in their buildings? Or even
current laws on that will not change, and yes, they will be able to restrict you.
Oh,
Private property rights. I guess that makes sense.
Mhm.
Let's see here.
I know several people in Colorado who've had notices on their door that don't even consume, that have been blamed for the smell that has been prevalent in the area, and they just post notices on everybody's door to try to get it to stop.
I feel you.
That makes sense. One of our listeners says, and we're going to take this back real basic. Can you define what a caretaker is?
The caregiver?
Yeah, caregiver.
So
I'm sorry.
a caregiver, if you become a caregiver, you are growing for yourself and 2 additional people. It is not yourself and 3 people.
Okay.
You are included in that equation. So basically, you can grow for 2 more people.
And they piggyback on that question. Are there restrictions on how much a plant can yield? They've had plants that have yielded a ton of dry flower. So
Well, yeah, it just depends. But you just can't have. You really don't want to have more than 2 times what your allowance is in the law.
And what is that right now?
I believe I'm going to have that looked up here real quick. I want to say it's 4 ounces.
Okay.
yeah.
4 ounces per month.
Okay. Okay.
And they don't want you to have more than a 90-day supply.
Okay.
But there is a way to have more, guys, and I guess it's time for the bomb drop.
Okay. Hit us with it.
I guess if you go to section 13 under section 3, 13 and 14, if you get a second doctor recommendation, you can increase your plant count. And there is no limit that is set in the law. So we don't know. It's very vague and ambiguous to what your plant count is going to be if you get 2 doctors to sign off on you.
Now, are you saying that if 2 doctors sign off on different symptoms, or could they both be recommending based on the same symptoms?
That you need an increased plant count due to your medical condition and your consumption. Somebody like me is definitely absolutely going to have it.
I understand. Okay.
I consume all oils only.
Which takes a lot of flour in order to make an RSO or something like that.
Correct.
Okay.
Will there be
So
any?
I'm going to need an expanded plant count, and I am going to have one.
Okay.
That's good. I mean, I'm all for that.
Absolutely.
As much as we can. Will there be any protections from workplace discrimination via like drug tests?
Nothing is going to change. It's the way it is now. But what I do see occurring is that employers will probably lift some of the restrictions or the operating procedures. And what I mean by that is like your nanogram levels will probably increase.
Okay.
So what they're looking for in a drug test, because they can tell whether you've been using within 24 hours or if it was from, 3 weeks ago.
So I believe this law goes into effect on the 6th of next month. When, and I may have just answered the question, but when can we legally get cannabis? We have a fan with cancer. When can she legally get cannabis products for her cancer?
See, there's a lot of people throwing a lot of stuff out there, and I think even a lawyer or two has even thrown some things out there that I don't believe is going to be correct, because I don't think you're going to find a doctor who is going to write a letter until there's certifications available from the DHSS. They're not going to risk it.
That makes sense. The doctors have to have basically a form to fill out in order to be able to give a recommendation.
Yeah, correct. So literally after December 6th, I really don't think anyone's going to have a letter from a doctor in their car that they're going to show a police officer and get pulled over and say, don't take me to jail because I'm a med patient. They're going to still go to jail, bro.
Oh, man.
That's just going to happen, okay?
Yep.
Until we have med cards in our hand, you really think a police officer is going to believe a piece of paper you hand to him that is supposedly signed by a doctor?
Yeah, I might try that now. Why not? Go ahead and work that in
See
right
how
now.
far it goes. See how far it goes.
How's your handwriting, Daryl?
So like,
So,
how,
Good, Roman.
so basically, answering your question, it's going to be June.
June.
Okay.
so since medical marijuana is now legal, and say you do get caught with more than what you're allotted, or more plants, or vice versa, or you're consuming in public, would the laws change on what type of citation or what law you'd be breaking?
Yes, it has. Completely. You could jeopardize losing your med card, and you could serve up to 1 year in jail.
I think I know the answer to this, but just for anybody out there, if you're a medical cannabis card holder, will you be able to consume in public?
No.
Okay.
Nothing changes. It's like drinking in public. You can't go walk down the sidewalk and drink your beer and go, hey, guys.
Have you ever been to St. Louis? We all drink on the streets around here.
Vegas is another story, too. Depends on your city laws.
Sure.
All right, here's a question. Can they keep their own strain? That's interesting. But, will there be, because we heard from John Hunt, how is the strains going to work? Will different dispensaries sell different strains? Different growers have rights to certain strains? As far as, hey, this strain works really well with epilepsy, but it's only allowed at this
our
one
licensed strain.
Yes.
Or potency.
Yeah.
Nothing is licensed, but availability and growers being able to grow certain things can be an issue in finding them. Not every cultivator is going to be able to grow every strain.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And some what I'll call these guys with the genetics, guys don't make their stuff available to everybody either. They pick and choose who they let grow their stuff.
What is the patient?
Some of them can be very highly selective.
Oh yeah, that's what, when we went to Colorado, it was crazy to see how they kind of guard their strains and
Sure.
keep that information tight to the chest. What's the patient timeline looking like right now? Is it, we said June earlier? If I'm a patient and I need to get all my ducks in a row to have medicine as quick as I can, what's that timeline looking like?
Well, I suggest everybody now get your medical records ready and have all your stuff ready and have that conversation with your personal doctor and find out if he's going to even be able to write you a recommendation or will want to. You're going to find a lot of doctors in some of these licensed facilities, the big ones like Cox and stuff. If there's an ethics clause, they may not allow their doctors to do it. So you're going to find that a lot of the independent doctors will be the ones doing the issuing.
Okay. All right. Now, okay, I heard something as well with the Missouri residency and something about either growing or owning a facility here. You had to be a Missouri resident for, I believe it was 3 years, and have 1 year of knowledge in the cannabis industry. Well, am I ringing any bells for you?
No, it's the only requirement is a 1 year Missouri resident, and you have to have over 50% majority ownership has to be Missourians on your applications you submit.
There's some
So you
fear
could
mongering
have- you
going
could-
on right now with that. Like
you
you're saying.
you could have some outside. We can't do it ourselves, guys.
That makes sense.
And we're going to be fools if we even attempt to. Look at Arkansas. They tried to do it themselves, and they're still waiting because they thought they could do it themselves. We got to. They've been waiting a year. It's 14 months on applications still. The poor patients. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Okay, how about this one? Outdoor grow. What is the definition of security for an outdoor grow scenario?
Great question, you guys. Basically, out of sight from the roadway, not visible, and still has to be locked, secured.
Does it have to be fully enclosed? Or is it just like a gate, like a locked gated scenario, or does it have to be like in a greenhouse? I'm just kind of trying to clear
Good question. We still don't technically know if there is some rulemaking that could happen on this, but from the way I'm reading it, is if you were in a greenhouse locked, it would be good, or even if it was chain link and fenced, as long as it was out of sight from the roadway and anybody couldn't see it, you would be good.
Okay.
So that'd be very possible to do with people who are landowners out here who have plenty of room around here. And there's no road near them. They won't, they can just put a fence up around it with a lock. A padlock. They're going to be good.
Now, how does that cross over with if maybe somebody has a farm that's possibly already producing hemp or something like that? Are there separate laws that do you have to keep those grows separate? I think you would probably want to, but do you have to keep those separate? Does that count towards your plant count? How does that work? Do those things cross over?
I don't think anyone will be growing hemp or near their cannabis.
Okay.
Whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a good idea.
They're going to ruin their crop.
Sure.
So it'll be
sure.
done. Yeah, everything's the laws. I think they're going to probably make them separated, but I definitely wouldn't want my cultivation facility down the street from a hemp farm.
Sure, yeah, just in the wind that you're talking about cross germination and things like that. So
well, now you know not to get in Craig stuff.
Hey, listen, I'm just making rope. Okay, that's all I'm doing.
Making sales.
From that swag came from that place down the street. That's right.
That's right.
Craig's gonna corner the market on
I got
swag.
them bricks, baby. I got them bricks of swag.
It's like a retro deal he's doing.
I know that there's a pretty detailed list, and of course a doctor's can recommend outside of that. Is anxiety one of the covered conditions?
Yeah, as long as your doctor feels that cannabis is the better solution for you, they can write you a recommendation.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest things about the entire thing for me, that if you have a doctor who understands and has continued their learning, they might figure out things that we haven't heard of before, like some of these medical journals and stuff.
That's how it was in Colorado or California whenever they legalized in California, right?
Probably.
I'm going to suggest, guys, those people, someone with anxiety just doesn't go and consumes any type of weed either.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Makes perfect sense.
I
just got one that just came through. Apparently we got a lot of felonies. If a felony is expunged, is it something that needs to be brought up or put on any kind of paperwork or anything like that? I know you're not a lawyer.
Only if you're going to be an owner, and it'll be on your background check that you submit anyways.
Okay, so not as a patient, but if you're getting in the business.
Correct.
All right, we got a question coming in hot on the text inbox with the Facebook Live. And Kenneth says, what about DUI, DWI convictions? How will that work? Are you okay for medical? I guess even if you have one in your past, are you okay for medical? And I'm curious as how they will test for driving under intoxication for cannabis, especially if it's considered a medicine.
We already have a DU. It's illegal to drive under the influence of alcohol. It's illegal to drive under the influence of cannabis.
Makes perfect
They
sense.
do have a test for it. They just don't have a nanogram level test for it here in the state of
Well,
Missouri.
can you drive, like, say you took an Ambien and drove?
You're not supposed to. No, I had a guy that was in my SATOP class that lost everything because
Oh, Jesus.
he blew,
I got to hear that
he
story.
blew a .000 on his test, but he was under the influence of Ambien and lost everything, dude. It cost him
no.
so, yeah, it was
Hey
pretty crazy.
guys, I got a question.
Sure.
What wrong way did he drive down?
Yeah, like, I'm not. It was down. Hey, I'll tell you what. I did SATOP down in Nixa, so it was down in our neck of the woods. I think he was actually a nurse in the Cox system, and he was a nurse up pulling nights. And he's like, I had the same routine every day. I would take my Ambien 10 minutes before I got to my house. So the second I got home, I laid my head on. He goes, and it just kicked in a little fast. Fell asleep at the wheel, and boom, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We got another one that came through here. Would an individual or group be allowed to have multiple permits, production, concentrations, and sales, or are they only allowed one permit?
Yes, they can have, but they are restricted. They can't have. I don't got all the numbers. Hang on a second, guys. It's not going to take me long.
Nope, you're gone,
Yep, you're
Daryl.
outta here.
Sorry.
I thought you were going to be prepared.
cut you off the line.
I'm playing cards with my brother's kids.
It's different for all the topics. So dispensaries, no one can have more than 5 licenses. Cultivation, no one can have more than 3 licenses, any entity. For infused or manufacturing, no one can have more than 3 there also.
That pertains to like separate locations. Is that what you're saying?
Just
Okay.
a license, period. They can't have more than 3 manufacturing licenses.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
It's,
So
it's an anti-monopoly clause.
Okay, so there couldn't be like a McDonald's of the cannabis stores in St. Louis where there's 30 of the same,
The most you're going to see in the state is 5 of anybody. It will be possible.
Interesting. Okay.
That's cool. Cooperative growing on the same property. How does that work, or can it work?
They would have to have a license pinged for that address.
And would each one of
If
their
they won their license, they both would be submitting for that address together, and they both would have had to win. Otherwise, there'd only be 1 license holder there, not 2.
and now if they are, do each of those grows have to be in separate locked facilities?
Good question.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't-
I just picked that one. I just made that up. I don't know.
Wow.
So
Craig.
I'm just thinking on that might be something that does come up.
Okay. What
Because that is not addressed in in the language.
What are they looking for in a background check typically?
That's a good question. So basically, the Department of Health and Senior Services here in March will let us see this application that'll tell us exactly what they're looking for. Until that date, we're not going to know what they want in that application.
Gotcha.
We have a good idea, but the truth of the matter is, the cleaner the background check, unfortunately, you're gonna score better. The more diverse your board is, you're gonna score better. Women score better, unfortunately, than the men. Sorry, guys. It's just how it works.
Women-owned businesses, they
used
get all
to it.
kinds of perks.
Yep.
Piggybacking off of that, what if I did something at a high school party 30 years ago? Is that going to? I'm sorry, don't go there. I'm just kidding.
When you were 5?
So when you were boofing,
You
or
guys
when
don't know. You guys don't know how
triangling?
old I am. I look very young for my age.
Me too.
So person wants to clarify a little bit on the multiple licenses, and this may have to do with vertical integration. So you'd be able to have all 3 on one site. You could essentially have a grow, a sales, and a extraction site on the same premises.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. So, say a person wanted to get in, whether it be growing for a dispensary, or whether it be making extractions, or just selling cannabis, being a bud tender. Are there any restrictions or anything like could you be a felon, or could you, have a medical marijuana card yourself and work at a dispensary?
This is a personal question. Is that what we're getting at?
More than likely, I'm going to want my bud tender to be a med card patient. I'm
For
not
sure.
going to want to buy
Exactly.
it from some dude who doesn't know anything about it
For sure.
and isn't a patient himself or herself.
Daryl, we've got we're getting some more questions rolling in. If you've got the time, can we jump to a quick break? You hang around for a few minutes, and we'll come back and have a few more questions for you.
I'm game, bro.
Sweet. Guys, that's Daryl Bertrand with Missouri Cannabis Consultants. Check out MissouriCanna.com if you guys are looking to get into the business. He's the guy you want to hook up with. He and Trish were paramount in getting Amendment 2 passed. We were just joined by Blake Bell here in studio. We're going to jump to a quick break. This is Hoosier Sophisticate.
Integrity's mom's here.
Oh, and hi, Integrity's mom. All right.
Take us to break.
We're going to jump to a quick break real quick. We got Daryl Bertrand on the other side to answer more of your questions about what is next for cannabis here in Missouri. This is Hoosier Sophisticate on WGNU 920 AM. We'll see you.
1965, the 8th of November.
Welcome back to Hoosier Sophisticate. I did not tell you we were up against it before the break. Thanks very much for pointing that out, Corey Gray.
We're not.
We still got our buddy Daryl Bertrand on the line from Missouri Cannabis Consultants. He's answering all of your questions from the patient side, from the potential business side, and we're happy to have him. So, Daryl, we left break. You were just spitting knowledge on us. We had a couple more questions come in. Do you have to be a card holder to be an investor or to be in the business?
No, I have several clients in Oklahoma who own and are not patients. It's about helping.
Makes perfect sense to me. Makes perfect sense.
Daryl, how did it feel? You were in Springfield, right, for the results?
Yeah.
How did that feel, big boy?
Dude, I don't even know if it's still sunk in yet, really, for me.
I feel the same way. Don't you feel like there was such a buildup and then we did it? And I was going to say at the beginning of the show, I'm like lost. With the conference over, Blake, and with the two passing, I'm like, so now what do I do with my life?
All purpose in life.
Now I'm like, oh, the really hard work begins.
I know. And I'm like, oh, I thought I could take a breather. Nope.
There were a lot of people that were saying, from states that have gone rec or gone full rec or legalized medical, that we might really only have the ball at the 50-yard line. Don't spike it just yet. We haven't crossed the goal line. Is there some truth to that? Is there any grumblings? Do we have any fear of litigation or anything like that against this amendment passing?
I don't think so, but, we don't have cards yet, guys. We don't have applications yet, guys, Until we do, and I see that piece of paper in my hand, oh, then I believe it, brother.
I'm with you. I'm with you there. If someone has a contact in Colorado who can get them genetics for a new grow site, how can he legally transport them back here?
There really is no what we call legal way of transporting them here.
Yeah.
But there's, I really don't want to, some of us.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Drive it here ourselves or get on a plane and bring it back ourselves or do something. You mail it. I don't know. There's all different ways. I don't take part in any of that, but.
No, well, Steve and I were trying to figure out where we get into this business. And let me tell
I'm a
you,
mule.
he's a mule.
I'm a mule. I know where I fit in.
Surprised what he can stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. It's like a
Guys, do we have Blake's mic on in
suitcase.
there?
I don't think so.
That's good.
You guys
No.
can Google. There's a lot of genetics companies online too. There's some stuff available that route too.
Interesting.
Google's pretty handy. How about I answer it that way?
There you go. Man, we want to, really thank you and Trish for the work that you did. I think that possibly it was an odd election night where, typically on the day after a big election like this, you have there's half the country that's typically upset or half the state that's typically upset. And I feel like everybody got a little bit of something that they wanted to happen to being passed. It was the most voted for thing on the ballot. And that was so incredible to see that everybody was talking about. We knew that Missouri had they really had the desire to make this legal. And with 3 competing initiatives, we thought, okay, they might all pass. Which one's going to get the most? But the way that, and you guys were huge in this, that we educated people to pick the right amendment and reject the other 2. I can't commend you guys enough for how well you helped educate this state, man.
Hey, I appreciate it, but I couldn't do it without all the help from all you guys too. It was a total team effort, complete team effort.
You're welcome, Daryl.
We didn't want to pat ourselves on the back, but you're right. It was all us. Okay.
How hard is it?
It was everybody
It really was.
across the entire state, and and sharing all this information and making it go viral. It was just amazing.
It was
And
cool.
getting tattoos and whatnot.
I don't know what kind of idiot would do that, but that seems like a maniac. Hey, Daryl, how hard is it going to be for doctors to start recommending this? Do you think, and this is, more or less maybe hearsay or whatever, but do you think it's going to be in the doctor community? Has there been a shift? Has there been a shift in places where it has become medicinal to where doctors are like, well, I'm not going to be a guy who recommends it, or, oh, Dr. Craig is recommending cannabis to his patients? What a quack. Is there going to be any of that going on, or has that happened before?
No, basically what you're going to probably see happen is there's handfuls in each community right now who will possibly even do it. And once they start seeing them do it, all these other doctors are going to want to jump on board, because they're going to see those 4 or 5 doctors alone being the only ones writing them and making all that money.
Yeah, seems like a nice little revenue stream somebody could pick up.
Completely. Or, it helps some of these struggling doctors running these clinics in the rural areas that are really helping the communities really are going to need this jump in the arm to keep their places afloat, I could see, potentially.
Is there...
and they're going to be getting the opioids off the streets in the same move. I'm all for it.
I agree. I think we've shown that in states that have legalized, opioid deaths are down 25%. Like that's the numbers are staggering. Blake, you got one?
Well, as far as doctors, is my mic? Can you hear me now?
I think so.
Unfortunately.
No. As far as doctors, we do need to keep educating them and make them aware that they're not going to lose their license. And the reason I say that is when we look just to our east in Illinois, there was a guy, a doctor, Bodo Schneider, who actually got in trouble. The state went after him because he was one of the few doctors that was writing it. And at the beginning, he had wrote, I think, 2,500 of the ones that were approved. And the state ended up coming down on him. And he still has his license. He's still practicing. But I think he has a cautionary tale that I should probably reach out to him again. And we should start reaching out to doctors. And
Sure.
if you know a doctor that can get in touch with the show, get in touch with us, maybe we start educating them so we could help make sure that what's happened in other states doesn't happen here.
Through these doctors to do these recommendations in a wrong way. Also, we need them doing it the right way.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
So, your recommendations will stand up if it does get challenged in a court of law.
The cardinal way.
One of the things that I feel like is maybe holding back a lot of employers, or the people asking that question of, can I be fired for this? Well, is how long THC stays in your system, or how long cannabis stays in your system. Is there some movement in legal states and other places where they're getting testing that can test how recently it's been? I've seen some saliva that can detect if you have smoke in your mouth, but when it comes to edibles or anything like that, is there any kind of tests that are being developed to shorten that time that you might be under the influence?
Yes, the timeline's getting shorter and shorter, and there will be DUI devices probably available to law enforcement, I think, in the next couple of years.
I actually think that's a good thing for the industry as a whole. I feel like,
disagree.
do you think?
I disagree wholeheartedly. What is an intoxicating level for me is, or what's an intoxicating level for Roman, or it's different for each individual.
Yeah.
And to have a test to say, well, and it's not like alcohol. We want to compare it to alcohol. We want to give it, well, if you have a blood alcohol, we can get it on your, we can test it. And if you're above 0.08, well, then you're intoxicated.
Well, the problem
that doesn't work for marijuana. Would you agree, Daryl?
It does not work that way for cannabis. It doesn't work with body weight or any of that.
So, I mean, I could have smoked the day before and my levels are still so high, and I get tested. The following day I get pulled over and they want to pull a test on me and do a blood draw. I haven't even done anything at all that day. I still go down as a DUI.
Because it stores in fat cells, correct?
Yeah.
So therefore,
It takes
someone who has a
months.
little bit more weight on them.
For instance, I know a local doctor who's done tests on patients where he's gotten 3 gentlemen who weigh the exact same weight. They smoke the exact same strain of weed. Go and test their blood. All 3 levels are completely different.
So that's when you just.
So what other tests could we do? I mean, you could do just like you would for that guy with Ambien, right?
Sure.
You could do a roadside test. But there's also still people, if you're taking it because you have MS, what are some of the other things that come along with MS? Shaking,
Right.
Wouldn't that?
Yeah.
You can't necessarily do a roadside test
Yeah.
on a medical
No,
marijuana patient, and that's what they're finding in these other states is that
Yep.
it's, even though we want to have a way to say you're too intoxicated, with cannabis it's a completely different animal.
Sure. Yeah. I think somebody has to come up with. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Daryl.
Also, back on what Blake went on the doctors writing recommendations, I want everyone to know that in the new approach language, there's protections written in to protect the doctors. So they're going to want to write the recommendations. I don't know how it was structured in Illinois and if they wrote protections for doctors in their law or not. But there is definitely line protections for these doctors to be able to write these recommendations as long as they do it properly.
It's always dangerous to compare Missouri and Illinois when it comes to anything.
Or just any other state,
Caution
period.
detail.
Right. We're all kind of figuring this out. It's maybe one of the advantages we had. Are we the 34th state? 32nd?
32nd.
30.
I thought we were
32nd, 31st, and 32nd.
Yeah.
Two at the
Okay.
same time.
Well, I think that's kind of an advantage that we had. We've had an opportunity to look kind of at what works in other
Show me
states.
state, buddy.
Yeah,
show
a
me
lot
what
of people
works.
showed us, and we went ahead and said, okay, well, we're going to take that out. We're going to put this in, and we're going to.
We're the show me state masters of innovation.
How do
Show
you
me
think? How do you think our legislation matches up to comparable medical programs in the country, Daryl?
It's probably one of the, for a starting piece of medical language, it's probably the best in the nation
Yeah, buddy.
for a starting piece.
I'm under the impression that the way it was written was so that it couldn't be changed in Jeff City by a bunch of legislators doing a bunch of like. We saw it. I was actually in Springfield, so you're aware of this when we voted to decriminalize several years ago, and the city council all of a sudden just like, no, we're not going to go for that. I think
Yeah, that was a great host job, wasn't it? But that's the reason why we are here right now, because that lawsuit, guys, is basically what funded the whole start of this whole thing.
Really.
Dang.
Started.
Wow.
What's up, Queen City? Represent. That's what I'm talking about. Leading the
Thank
charge,
you,
baby.
Springfield, for making this happen.
That's right. Thanks, Springfield. Daryl, give us. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
I got one more question for you, Daryl. There were, when we went to Colorado, the testing process, a lot of people who were using cannabis as a hardcore medicine to save their life and get the right recommended dosage for what they needed, they found out that the dosaging was sometimes off. What are we doing in Missouri? How does that work? How is our testing for labeling?
Well, what I'm hoping is there's a bunch of new technology coming on board to where you guys will be able to even test in your own home and won't have to worry about the lab.
Purple.
Purple.
You guys knew that was coming.
Oh, buddy, was that not a spaceship? That thing was awesome.
We live in the future. Tell us a little bit about purple. We talked about it at the conference a little bit, but just give our listeners out in terrestrial radio land a little taste of what the purple app and little gadget is going to do for them.
So basically what we call a square hockey puck, and it takes basically a sample the size of your pinky fingernail, and you drop it on this infrared spectrometer, and in about 20-30 seconds you got your CBD, THC content, and here you'll also have moisture content also, and you're going to know exactly what you have right there staring you right in the face.
Oh man, I didn't get to see it in action. But I can't wait to see it in action. I think it's going to be. I saw some of the data logged in John Hunt's app. This thing is straight out of the future. It's incredible how it works.
I'll have my unit here maybe when I get back from Vegas next week, but definitely within 2 weeks I will have a unit here in Missouri.
Are you going out to the BizCon out there in Vegas?
Yep.
Oh man, that's got to have like all the latest. That's one thing that's nice about conferences and conventions is all the latest, greatest science space weed stuff that you're going to run into out there. You got any more?
I want to touch up base in a couple of weeks after that, so I can let you guys know what I see and run into, because I'm definitely going to be looking for the newest and cutting edge stuff.
Oh,
that's what.
Oh, this is your last time on the show, Daryl. Don't get it twisted, okay, buddy?
And also, if you guys could give me a second, hey, I want to let you guys know about a couple little things that I'm going to help make happen.
Please.
Here in Missouri, if you guys don't mind me.
No, please do.
Yeah. So basically, as you guys knew, I was the treasurer for Patients Against Bradshaw Amendment, one of the leading forces against vote no on 3. Basically, what we are going to do with some of the funds that are left over, we're going to start 2 nonprofits, one for the veterans and one for children with special needs. And we are going to help them get low-cost, affordable access to medicine.
Nice.
that,
Wow.
man.
That sounds awesome.
I love that.
That sounds awesome.
And there are so many people, man. Like we met Ashley out at the conference, and I mean,
She is going to head up the special needs end.
Nice.
I mean, you couldn't put a better person in charge of that. It was really moving to see Dr. Sue Sisley all the way in from Arizona, who was dynamite in her speech and everything. How much time she spent when she wasn't, answering questions and everything, just with Ashley, just trying to figure out what she can do to help her and other, parents like her.
That was the most magical part of the weekend.
Like she was taking care of the kids, not Ashley.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it was a beautiful thing. And we made a lot of friends. We picked up a lot of followers to the show and everything. And it was amazing how many parents were to see them celebrating on Tuesday night. It made all the work worth it. It made it and the work was a labor of love. I don't think any of us ever felt, well, maybe Blake did. He was doing kind of a lot there. He was burning the candle at both ends. I don't think any of us felt like it was too hard of work because of the reason why we were doing it. It was very motivating to constantly be moving around. You got any more bombshells? Maybe something that anybody is not thinking about now that this is past? Any other news breakers?
Hey, what are the prices going to be? I tell that they're going to be super high when they first come up. Do we have any thoughts on that? Like as far as pricing goes, in comparison to the rest of the country, medicinal?
Oh, well, it's going to be just like anything else. It's going to start probably a little higher and then get a little lower. The cultivators, the most expensive price for any pound they sell will probably be the first pounds they sell.
Makes sense. Gotcha.
Unfortunate, supply is going to have, the higher the patient count is going to help us. The more patients that come on board, the lower the prices will be.
Awesome. Makes perfect sense.
And the patient, we can't just sit back and just wait for these rules to come out. The DHSS is going to have some hearings and stuff, guys. There's going to be public input. Don't stay shy. Stay up and keep listening and give that input so we get there's going to be a lot more rules that they get to set, and we need to help influence them.
Yeah, absolutely. What's give us one more thing that maybe we're not thinking about, possibly entering the business or entering the, being a patient. What's something maybe everybody's overlooking?
Oh gosh, there's just so much, you guys, on either end. If you're a patient, be patient. We're going to get your medicine. Unfortunately, the realist of it is you guys are probably going to have your medicine buying it out of a store till it's probably going to be sometime in 2020.
Yeah, I think that's a safe.
We're going to really rely on the caregivers and the patients who get to grow and there's really nothing in this language either that says we can't share and give away our stuff to other patients possibly too. We'll see what comes up with that, because what are you supposed to do with your overage? There's nothing written in this language that says anything about that.
That makes,
that's why couldn't I gift it to my friend here who has a med card and doesn't have any medicine? I'm not selling it to him.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Celebrate, Daryl.
We're celebrating here, man. We're kind of giddy here, brother. I'm not gonna lie to you. Do you mind? And if you don't want to cover too much of that again, would you kind of go over that thing again about? We have some people that want some clarification. You could possibly have more than 6 plants.
Pants?
Pants too. I think I only have 4. But could you possibly have more than 6 plants with multiple doctors recommending possibly for multiple symptoms?
Absolutely. 100%. You just have to have the 2 doctor certification, and the exact wording is this: qualifying patients cultivating marijuana for medical use may possess up to 90-day supply so long as the supply remains on the property, blah, blah, blah. Any such limit shall not apply to a qualifying patient with written certification from 2 independent physicians that there are compelling reasons for additional amounts.
Very good,
What
sir.
are those?
But is that for
additional amounts?
possession or for growing?
That's for growing or possession. It doesn't say. If you have the dual recommendation, you're going to be able to do both. They're going to up your possession and up your plant count.
Daryl, I've got we're up against it, G. We're up against it, brother. We cannot thank you enough, but I want to give you an opportunity. There are plenty of people that are looking to enter the business, and it seems like there's a place that they can go right now to hook up and learn, maybe get hooked up with possible investors, learn what it's going to take with the ins and outs. Plug what you do with Missouri Cannabis Consultants, and man, we can't thank you enough for coming on. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, guys. And anytime you need me, I'm here for you guys.
Appreciate you. Where can they find you?
www.missouricanna.com. Missouri Cannabis Consultants on Facebook. We're on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Give me a shout. Send me an email. Daryl@missouricanna.com. We're here to help everybody.
Daryl, we love you, brother. Thank you so much for your efforts. And we did it, brother.
We did it, my
We
man.
did it.
We did it.